Time is now 6 o'clock. This time we'll call this meeting to order. This being the November meeting of the Dawson County Planning Commission. We'll begin with the invocation from Tim Bennett, if you would, please, Tim.
Let's bow our heads. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you. We thank you, God, for your love, mercy, and grace. We thank you for your goodness toward us, your many blessings upon us. And Lord, as we enter into the Thanksgiving season, we're so thankful for all that you've done. I just pray in this meeting that you would just help us, Lord, to make the right decisions for all the citizens of the county, and now for what's best for the county and those who live here in this wonderful place. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. This time we'll have our roll call. Ms. Harmony, when you're ready. Record will show that we have 4 present, John Maloney being absent, but that 4 gives us a quorum, so we're able to continue for the night. Under announcements, there will be a planning commission meeting on December 21st, same location, same time. Gentlemen, the minutes that are before you for October 19th, I assume you've had opportunity to look at those. So is there any amendments need to be made? If not, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moving second to approve, all in favor? Motion is carried 4-0. The agenda presented by staff tonight, I assume you've had opportunity to look at it. Is there any amendments that need to be made? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor? Motion is carried 4-0 and the agenda is approved. If you're here tonight to speak either in favor or in opposition of any application, and you have contributed more than $250 to any local official campaign, there's a form that needs to be filled out prior to your speaking, and Harmony has it up here at the desk. We will begin at this time with new business, starting with application for special use and variance. Presentation of SU 21-07, Greg Spence, OBO Verizon Wireless is requesting a special use of tax map parcel 049-001 for the purpose of placing a telecommunications tower, Highway 52 East, also aligned with VR 21-19. Greg Spence, OBO Verizon Wireless is requesting a variance to the Dawson County Land Use Resolution, Article 4, Section 410F4. Is Mr. Spence available? Or someone to speak for Mr. Spence? If you would, please come to the podium. On the piece of podium, you'll find a piece of paper and a pen. If you would write your name and address on that piece of paper.
How about that? Is that better? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Kirk. I'm with the law firm of Troutman, Pepper, Hamilton, Sanders. With me is Mr. Greg Spence, who's the CEO of Fortified Telecom Services. And hopefully this will work. Let's see, can you help me out here? There we go. Awesome. Thank you. We're here to speak on this application and answer any questions you may have. Try that one. I'll just ask you, can I get the next one, please? Before we talk about the specifics of this application, I'd like to give you all just a little background. By the end of 2020 actually, can you go back one? I'm so sorry. There we go. By the end of 2020, about 66% of adults in households across the country had cut the cord and no longer used a landline. And that number was much higher among young people. In fact, I sent the presentation to Ms. G today and checked on the report from the CDC. And sure enough, that as the end of, well, by the middle of 2021, that number had gone up to 68% of adults live in wireless households and 79% of young members of households are in wireless only households. nationally, about 80% of your 911 calls are made using a wireless device. The data that we now download, and it used to be just videos and stuff like, but now it's documents, particularly over the last 2 years, it's work that you're downloading from a server somewhere else. That's increasing about 40% annually, and has increased almost 100-fold since 2010. And let me give you the next slide, please. This is a graphic that shows the growth in your wireless service demand over the last 10 years. That first number is under 1 billion. The second number is well into the trillions of megabytes that are being downloaded and being delivered wirelessly. So you can see this growth in wireless, whereas 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago was really almost considered a luxury. The iPhone's only a little over 10 years old. Was considered a luxury. Now it's really a necessity. And wireless facilities like the one we're talking about tonight are really part of our infrastructure, part of our communications infrastructure, just like roads are part of our transportation infrastructure. And electrical facilities are part of our electrical infrastructure. So if we go to, thank you, for the next one, perfect. So the proposed telecommunications tower we're talking about this evening is 195 feet total. And it meets your requirement of the compound being able to host 4 carriers. So the tower itself and the compound are designed to host 4 carriers. Because of its height, it is not required to be lighted. So concerns that often occur about towers relate to the lighting of the tower and its visibility at night. It will not have a light on it at night. It's on about a 59-acre portion of a 98-acre tract. 59 acres are in Dawson County. The rest is in Lumpkin County. I'll show you some information in a minute, how it fills a gap in service here in the county. So we're requesting a special use permit for this tower, as well as a variance. And the variance is to reduce the required 3-mile separation between towers by 220 feet. So that's about 1%. And in fact, it's to reduce the distance from another tower that Verizon's already on. And I'll show you a graphic of that in just a moment as well. So aside from that 220 feet, we meet all the requirements of your ordinance. Next, please. The area that we're focusing on is near the intersection of Highway 52 and Wesley Chapel Road. Next one, please. And as you can see from the site plan here, the setbacks here are shown on the graphic. It's beyond the height of the tower, back from the road, and well away from any other property lines. In fact, it's well over 1,000 feet away from any residential structure. Thank you. This is just focusing in on the site itself, the tower compound. You see the dashed line rectangles are the 3 additional carriers that could go on the tower. And then the rectangles really to the right of the tower itself are the proposed Verizon equipment. So we meet the requirement of having at least 4 carriers on this. We're well away from any existing tower, as you can see here from this graphic. The variance that we're seeking relates to the tower to the southwest of the central location there, and that is 2.9. It's actually a little more than 2.9 miles away. It's almost 3, and that's the variance we're seeking. I can have the next, please, Ms. G. Thank you. So let me take just a second and explain this graphic for you. Green is good. Green is good service. Yellow is okay service, and red is not good service. You can see that in this area that's within the black circle, there are some areas that are green. Those are typically the ridge lines that are high enough to get a signal from other towers. But most of that area and the surrounding area is red or yellow. And what this proposed tower will do, if you can go to the next one, you can see the dramatic change there, that Even the ridge lines will be better with the tower. Plus those without reliable service will now see a tremendous improvement. I go to the next. Now there is another tower that Verizon is not on. It's about, am I right, Greg? It's about 4 or so miles to the northeast, east-northeast of this site. It's owned by a company called SBA. And we didn't want to leave any stone unturned because it is a lot cheaper for a carrier to locate on a tower that's already there. Georgia law essentially allows you to come in and just apply for a building permit and you're on that tower. You don't have to pay Greg as much. You don't have to pay me. You can get it to market a lot quicker. So we looked at that SBA tower and it does provide good service in the area around it. But the area within that black circle, the area that we're trying to improve the service on in the Highway 52 corridor is just not adequately served by that. So maybe someday in the future, we'll look at that site for that area. But for this area, for this county, this is the site that's needed. Next, please. Now, one of the things that your county ordinance requires is what's called a balloon test. And that's where a large red balloon, is it 6 feet, Greg? I think it's at least 6 feet across, maybe larger, is raised up from as close to the center point of the tower as you can get. And then you go around and you take pictures of it from different vantage points. And that's what this, we can go back, I'm sorry, Ms. G. That's what this graphic shows. It shows the proposed location of the monopole there, just north of Highway 52. And then it shows the various locations from which the technician who ran the photo simulation and the balloon test did. Now, what we've done, we can go to the next one, is we had our folks look at each one of those locations and do what's called a photo simulation. And that's essentially using computer modeling to as close as possible replicate what that tower might look like from that particular vantage point. So this is the closest one. It's right in front. It's about 250 feet away from the tower location. You can see the red balloon, and then through the trees, you can see some of the top of the tower. And of course, we're assuming that we have more than one carrier on there because we wanted to model it at its potentially greatest impact. If I can go to the next. The second location, location number 2, is to the west on Highway 52, about 1,200 feet, a little more than 1,200 feet. And that location, from that location, the monopole would not be visible. The next, please. This is about 1,000 feet away, and it's on Wesley Chapel Road. And you can barely see that through the trees there in the distance and the simulation of the tower. And finally, down Highway 52 to the east of the site, about 1,600 feet. Again, the existing terrain, the existing vegetation would screen that tower completely from that vantage point. So in conclusion, this proposed tower will provide the service that's needed in this area. It will provide coverage to enhance service for first responders, for businesses, for residents, and the general public traveling through that area in Dawson County. Aside from that 220-foot variance we're asking for on a 3-mile requirement, the proposal does meet all the requirements while at the same time providing those necessary system improvements. So we're here to respectfully request your recommendation of approval of special use permit and your approval of the variance. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have. And if forgot to ask Ms. G if I'm allowed rebuttal time, if need be, or ask the chairman.
I will allow you a few minutes of rebuttal because I'm sure there'll be things that come up.
All righty.
Balloon test, what date? What was the date of the balloon test?
Let me see. Greg, do you have that? I know I've got it in my file. If you let me pick it out.
And how long did you leave it up, the balloon? Just the one day?
1 day or 1 hour. That has been requested.
Why don't you come up, Greg?
had a multi-day event for balloon testing.
Yes.
And when that was, I'll sign it here as well. And there was a revision to that ordinance, and so we sought information on how long, what time, notification process and everything else. So it was 1 day for 1 hour was the requirement for, it, and it was to be within 10 days of the actual.
Certainly. I just know that there are a lot of individuals around that would like to know when it's up, and so that they can see it as well.
And we sent out, we did have to, per the ordinance, we sent out return receipt request notifications with a letter that was also provided to the
Adjacent property owners. Thank you. In addition, Mr. Spence, did you look in this area with other property owners that would locate this tower more than 220 feet away?
We did. Actually, within that ring, there were several, I believe Mr. Long was approached initially, that he was the primary candidate. This ring has had Verizon unfortunately starts and stops after they, budgeting and everything else that they've gone through. So sometimes towers, the project get placed on hold, and it may be a year or two, and then we come back and try to blow life back into them. And so at the time this one came back, we had actually switched. My firm was involved initially with the initial search of the area, and we came back and spoke to Mr. Long, and I think he was doing some development on his property at the time and wanted us to move it on the parcel, but then the rent had gone. It was going to be a high rent situation. So Verizon said, well, let's look and see what else might be in the area. So that's what we did. That's how we came to Ms. Hutchison's property. So typically from a site acquisition standpoint, we find 3 candidates within the search area. And I know that we had at least 2, probably more than that throughout. I'd have to go back and file to see exactly which candidates were spoken to. And those were the only candidates that actually said, yes, we'll do it. We try to blanket the area as far as large parcels, which this is a very large parcel, so that we can adequately sort of put the setbacks in play and everything else.
Thank you. Any other questions, the applicant?
Were there any other locations on the Hutchinson property that were advantageous for your tower?
I would say that with that much property, there's always room to move. It's Verizon tries to not encumber very much of the parcel for their future use. Also, there's utilities, there's getting power and fiber optics run to the site that are always consideration. Long roads, you have your access roads and so forth that are to be maintained. And when you get into areas that have a lot of topographic type of topography to them, then you're always running the issues of roads washing out, having to rebuild and everything else. So typically you try to keep them within about the tower height, or maybe just a touch more from the public right of way.
During your balloon test, did you take any photographs from any of the surrounding neighbors' properties to see what the view was from those locations?
Usually we don't go on other people's properties. The locations that we chose were actually, they did that in the field while they were out there. I know that Harmony's team went out and took some photos. I always hate when I get a photo simulation back and it says, we can't see the tower. We'll find a place that you can see the balloon. I will certainly, there were a couple of spots in there where you could, but typically we like to be able to see the balloon, not hide in the tower. It's going to be there. So.
Last, I know traveling back and forth to Atlanta, going down 400 before you get into Buckhead, there's several towers down in that location that have a lot of camouflage on them to make them look like trees. Is that something that you would consider if there's any real pushback?
I would never say no, but I would say that those are extraordinarily difficult to maintain long-term. The branches fall, they become a fall hazard for the equipment on the ground. They never quite look like they do off the shelf. I think you've seen a move away from that type of scenario from the industry standpoint.
Yeah,
over the
they
last
have,
few years.
much greater profile. If you, I don't know if you've ever gone up 85 toward Charlotte in that area. But there are a couple, there's one near Kannapolis where it stands out.
Yeah,
quite a
sometimes the camouflage tends to make them look at me kind of a situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Draws a little more attention to it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. Write your name and address on the piece of paper on the podium. Yes, sir.
My name is John Hutchison. I'm the owner of that tract. 50 years ago, I began, and I lost it in divorce after protecting it from development for 40 years. And I would really dearly have loved to know when that balloon was going to be up so I could see if it was visible from my farm. My concern is that it will be, and I'll look at it for the rest of my life. So my question is directed to the gentleman that made the presentation as to whether my farm to the east, which you can see on Google Earth, would have visibility of this tower.
Mr. Hutchinson, I'm gonna ask you, keep all comments to the board.
All right, so my question then would be to this gentleman, is this balloon visible from my home?
Where's your home located at?
Located the first farm to the east of this tract. If you know where Wesley Chapel is and the graveyard, my mother's buried there, it comes straight down 1/4 mile, and that's my farm.
So if I'm going from Bailey Waters through Wesley Chapel, go past Wesley Chapel?
If you were on Bailey Waters, you cross the 52 highway, Mr.
Correct.
Hamby, and then go up the hill in Wesley Chapel to the church
Mhm.
and turn right and come through the graveyard, you
Okay.
back south again, going
Yes.
back to the 52 highway. My concern would be is that I'm going to look at this tower for the rest of my life.
I
I just
would say
really
more than
dearly
likely.
wish that I could have received a letter or something to told the balloon be up on this date, and I wouldn't be here asking this question.
Understand. If you're located where I think you are, just through the cemetery, and you turn
Right.
around and look back towards 52 itself, then more than likely you're gonna see a tower if this comes through.
I will.
You will?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Answers my question. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in opposition? You would please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper there on the podium.
This is not a pen. Joel Krotzer, and I own the farm. I did see the balloon test go up. So I'm going to take a two-step approach. I appreciate the information provided that answered some of my questions on the presentation. And I don't have such an elaborate presentation prepared for you. I apologize. I started to do some photographs and things of that nature, but I decided, my personal concerns are, yes, I will see the tower. It's 400 yards from the back of my house. I have a covered porch, a fire pit, and the most beautiful view in Dawson County. My approach to show you a picture.
Certainly.
All right. This is a rainbow last Sunday morning. Now visualize a tower about, it's just to the right of that rainbow. Tree line. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to look at. Not on this farm for generations. This is a house I built to die in. And this is also a place where I want my grandchildren.
Do you know where will the tower be on that?
Tower will be right here.
Gotcha. Okay.
So my view, that's my personal concern. It's very attractive. I'm fully in opposition of it. I'm not against progress. I'm a businessman, entrepreneur, and developer. I deal in real estate and everything myself. I understand the dynamics of what we need. But the reason I live out there personally is I don't care if my cell phone works when I get home. I don't care if I have Wi-Fi. That's why I live there. But with that said, I own a tract right there on the corner of 52 that's about 5 acres, along with 3 other people that do as well. excellent commercial development potential one day, not right now at the moment, but very soon. It's the first crossroads when you leave Dahlonega, and the only crossroads until you get way into Gilmer County at Crossroads Grocery. It's prime commercial lots. Eventually, it's coming. I don't want to see it come. I know that it is coming. I simply propose that if you move the tower a quarter mile back this way on that property and up to a higher ridge, it would not encumber the view of many residents that did not get a letter, and it would not need a variance. You would have the height then that you needed, and you would not need that, would move it away from the place that he showed you. That 200 foot would no longer be an option. And it would be greatly appreciated by me for the sake of the value of my real estate. We do have business plans for the property that we will not carry out if a tower is put there. I see no purpose in doing it. No one will want the land. If this gentleman that's come here to do this from wherever he's from, he can put one in his yard and see if he likes it, but I don't. So I appreciate your time, and if you got any questions for me, I've lived there for a long time, but my main concerns are that he didn't address any health hazards related to these towers. He didn't say anything about that. This is our home and we live here. And I think there's a more adequate solution that will not impact our property, real estate, and value and everything in this way. And so she has 100 acres, put it, I don't care what the road costs. I don't care if you have to maintain it. That's not my problem. Get the tower where it doesn't cost me money, and I'll be happy.
Thank you, Mr. Crotzer. Anyone else speak in opposition? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper there on the podium. Please state your name.
Larry Kohler.
And
This isn't really opposition, but on the day of the test, I live on Bailey Waters Road. I walked up about 50 feet south of Samples Way, and there's a break in the trees there, and I could see that thing just plain as day. I wish I'd brought my phone in because I could have showed you a picture I took. I had a 300mm lens on my camera, and got a pretty good picture of it. What my concern is mainly for the people who live across the street from me. I think they're going to be able to see that thing pretty well.
And that would be the Shaddixes?
Not the Shaddixes, they're on Samples Way. He's at the corner of Samples Way. There's people across on the east side of Bailey Waters. There's 2 or 3 houses there. Excuse me? Yeah. Okay.
If you would. I'm
Yeah,
gonna need
it's
your
not going
name
to
and
affect my
address.
view, but I was just speaking on behalf of my neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speak in opposition? If you would, please write your name and address on the piece of paper there on the podium. And for the record, please state your name.
So my name is Shane Turner. I live at 3314 Bailey Waters Road. I did not receive anything to do with the new cell phone tower, balloon test, anything. Luckily, I came home one day, I can't even remember what for. Noticed a balloon in the backyard. Assumed it was something to do with the clearing because there had been a clear cut, that burning brush for over a year now. Where the balloon was located at, it is looking from me to you, right off my back porch, right in my direct line of sight. It will block the view of the mountains. I've put a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money into that property, building that house. Hopefully one day that will be somewhere that I could, let my kids grow up and actually enjoy the view. It's the whole point of living in that part of town. There's no cell phone towers. There's no assholes coming up there trying to develop every part of the town. This cell phone tower comes in, it will ruin my property. It will ruin the view. It will kill everything about what makes that property beautiful. and I am against it 100%. Like Joel said, put a tower in your backyard. It is not something that you want to look at every day.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Anyone else speaking opposition? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on a piece of paper there on the podium.
Okay,
For the
I'm
record,
Mr.
please
Long.
state your name.
I'm Mr. Long.
Okay.
The reason I turned this cell tower down was because of these neighbors here with me. Because I knew that it was going to destroy their properties, their value, their property values, and their view. And I thought maybe if I turned it down, that this thing would go away, but obviously not. But it's going to be in my front door. I'm going to be looking right at it. I spent a lot of money on this property I just bought. I plan on doing some development on it, but it's basically going to destroy my income and the development that I was going to do. And like the other guy said, how about putting it in your front? And having to look at it every day. This cell tower is not going to benefit Dawson County any whatsoever that I see. My cell service is fine. I don't know if anybody else has got a problem with their cell service. My cell service is fine in that area. What it's going to serve is Lumpkin County. It's not going to serve Dawson County. The tower needs to be put in Lumpkin County instead of Dawson County. Instead of destroying our property, let them destroy the property in Lumpkin County where the tower is going to be used. That's basically what I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Anyone else speaking opposition? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper on the podium.
I live at 163 Highway 52. I live down from Joel behind him,
And your name?
Michael Bilbrey. The reason I came up here is to support Joel and my neighbors. A few years ago in Southern Living Magazine, they featured Highway 52 as one of the top scenic drives in Georgia. I saw the balloon that day. I know where it's at. Between LJ and Dahlonega, it's the top 5 in the state of Georgia scenic drives. There's no other towers that you can see on that stretch where the apple farms are, Burt's Pumpkin Farm, Amicola Falls, the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, and a tower would ruin that for people. People enjoy that drive on the weekend. That's why I'm opposed to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bilbrey. Anyone else speaking opposition? Seeing none at this time, we'll offer Mr. Kirk an opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said earlier, and I did this today, I went on Google Earth and I looked at the closest residential structure to this tower location. It's more than 1,000 feet away. It's more than 1,000 feet away. Some folks were complaining they didn't get a notice about the balloon test. We get the addresses from Ms. G based on distance from the location. So to the extent that folks didn't get them, I'm sorry they didn't get them, but those, we did what we were required to do by the county. Now, Mr. Long said he turned the cell tower down because of his neighbors. I think Mr. Spence would say Verizon turned him down because he increased the price to a point where it was not economically feasible for Verizon. Now, maybe that was his indirect way of turning it down by asking for too much money. But I just want to make sure that y'all understand that he was in fact in conversations with Mr. Spence. And I assume that if we had agreed to his demand for the money, he would be here on this side of the aisle today. A balloon, frankly, a balloon is much more visible than a tower. It's red, it's really big, and it's something that you're not used to seeing. Towers, as I said earlier, are their infrastructure. If you want your power to work in your house, you got to put up with power poles. If you want to get from point A to point B, you got to put up with paved roads. And if you want cell service, and importantly, I will agree, portions of this will serve Lumpkin County, just happens to be where Highway 52 is, happens to be where the demand is. But the majority of this service, if you, Ms. G, could you go back to the radio frequency diagram, please? Next one, please. See, there's sort of three arms that come out of that site. The one to the southeast and the one to the west are in Dawson County. It is true, the way they're oriented, they've got three faces, and a portion of it will serve Lumpkin County, just as a tower that's on the border of any county will serve both locations. But the majority of the services here is here in Dawson County. As far as moving it back on the site, I looked at it. I don't have a full topographic survey of the property, but looks like the height of the tower would have to come up further back on the site, at least from the topography that I can see, because the ground level goes down. That means to get the same service, the tower will have to be over 200 feet, and under FAA guidance, FAA regulation, excuse me, it would have to be lighted. So that means during the day, you'd have a white strobe. At the night, you'd have a red beacon. Be far more visible than the simple galvanized towers that we have now. And that's all I have to say. I'm happy to answer any more questions. And Greg, did I miss anything in terms of? But thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This time we'll close the board for discussion. Gentlemen, you have before you another cell tower. Highway 52, which would require both a special use permit and a variance. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to know your thoughts. This is up in your district, I believe.
I have good cell service myself. Right there where it's located, honestly, as far as Dawson County folks, you're only going to reach a few. There's not an abundance of people live right there. The bulk of them's represented right in front of you. So as far as my personal use, I don't have any need for it myself, but that's my personal thought. You know me, I'm the chairman, I don't even vote, so my thoughts though. But do we need cell towers across the county? Sure we do. Where people are located at, where they need service. Anything. Any other discussion?
Harmony, can you go back a couple slides, please? One more, right there. Mr. Kratzer, when you mentioned moving that tower where you thought it might be that would be more advantageous for you and your neighbors, where on this circle would that be? Please.
I used to have photographs of the balloon. I had to be home, stay up for quite some time. And it's only an hour. People care to see it, everybody share it. This is the same rainbow picture with the balloon in the mountain range. You can see what that's going to look like on my back porch. It's high level, which this is only my personal concern. It's not my business concern. Grew up there, finally buying there, and that's what we own. You can see how intrusive that is actually compared to the mountains. And you can't tell me that that little balloon is going to be less noticeable than a tower. Oh. Now, with this map right here, you can see the intersection. For 52 runs. It didn't have a ladder. I'll be glad to use a chair. Pointer, you can get a pointer.
I don't want to point it. but Doesn't appear to be working, sorry.
Well, you can see they got it on the Dawson County side. I'm not even saying it's Montgomery County, but you see the dotted line where the property ends. If it was out there in the middle of that property, off of 52, way up there, away to the right toward Lumpkin County, it's a lot less inhabited and it wouldn't affect us near as much. And the main reason, nobody's gonna want that tract of land at the time. I don't care where you. Anybody here buys that land with cell phone power on the edge of it, or no? No, it's not gonna be developed anymore. So put it in the best place for the people who live here every day. That help any? I hope. Okay, I'm sorry. That's too long.
This time we'll close the board for discussion. Mr. Sandy, any other discussion?
You mind, can I ask the gentleman a question?
Sure.
The ingress and egress off of 52 goes back to the tower. Is there a way to come off of the less traveled road? How much traffic will you be going back and forth to your site?
Mr. Sambi, after it's constructed, there'll be one technician a month.
Okay.
And I believe there is, I can look at the survey real quickly. It doesn't have the topography there. I know there's another property on that corner, and I don't know if it was the one the gentleman was referring to as the northeast corner, Wesley Chapel and Highway 52. But that would require coming in, cutting down a lot more trees just to access that site. I don't know if you have a copy.
I've
of
got
the
a
survey.
topography map right here.
Another concern is also the farther away from the tower that you are, generally, it's more visible. It's just. It's
On the
just
side.
more visible.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I think I've got my questions answered.
Is there a motion? Need to make a recommendation on the SU, special use permit. We need to make a vote on the variance, both of which need to be taken care of tonight. Is there a motion?
A motion to recommend denial of the special use permit, and we're gonna do one variance. or
Let's do one at a time.
Okay, recommend denial of the special use permit.
There's a move. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moving a second for denial. All in favor? Motion is carried 3-0 with one abstention. As far as the variance, is there a motion on the variance?
I'd make a motion to deny the variance.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moving a second to deny the variance. All in favor? Motion is carried 3-0 with one abstention. The special use will be heard by the Board of Commissioners on December the 16th. They will make the final decision on this special use December the 16th. Anyone who's has interest in this will need to be heard then as well. Application for rezoning, presentation of ZA 21-22 Redo Properties LLC. Is requesting rezone tax map parcel 094-044 from RSR to RMF for the purpose of bringing a non-conforming use into zoning compliance, Reeves Road. Is someone here to speak for Redo Properties? Gentlemen, would you like a motion to table or would you like to ask staff to present? Are you ready to present?
Along southeast off of Highway 9 Reeves Road, there is an existing small apartment complex that's been out there since the late 80s. The applicant purchased it in 2016, 2017, and would like to bring it into compliance, mainly to avoid any concerns if there was to be damage or he had to replace anything, and the non-conforming use language would kick in. They don't propose at this time for additional structures or modifications due to lack of sewer. So we think it is a rational request.
Any questions to the applicant's representative?
Okay, so if over 50% of the property were to be, or the buildings were to be, say, have a fire, they could not rebuild, is that correct?
Without coming through for the rezoning, correct?
Any other questions to the applicant's representative? Seeing none. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, at this time, we'll close the board for discussion. Gentlemen, do you have any discussion on the rezone of ZA 21-22? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Move in a second. All in favor? Motion is carried 3-0 with one abstention. ZA 21-23, Stanley Hood is requesting to rezone tax map parcel 088 108-001 from RA residential agriculture to RSR residential sub-rural for the purpose of subdividing the parcel into two parcels, Highway 9 South. Is somebody here to speak for Mr. Stanley Hood? Seeing none. No, that's Tommy Hatcher. That's not Stanley Hood.
You did not hear me say it.
Do we know why applicants aren't showing up tonight?
Full moon, we do not know.
Okay. I would motion to table this till the next meeting.
Second that.
Move in a second to table to the next meeting. All in favor? Motion is carried 3-0 with one abstention. Updates by planning and development.
Oh, tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning is a joint meeting between the Long Range Planning Committee and the Board of County Commissioners here in this room.
Very good.
Get some updated marching orders.
Any other updates?
No, we are currently working on a lot of code updates and hope to start in the new year with a batch of them to bring forward.
That leaves us with item K. Is anyone going to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.